I'm joined today by Sarah Lina of Fios Genomics. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Ewan. How are you?
Very good. And how's your day, your week been so far?
So far, so good, but it's only Tuesday. So
and we're getting into this, obviously. So, thanks very much for agreeing to be interviewed on behalf of Fios and so on, and yourself, obviously. And the main thing that we're kind of going to do here is have a conversation about you and where you come from and how you got to where you got to. And all that sort of good stuff. So if you're happy, I'll just ask you the first question.
Go for it.
Tell me a bit about your background and upbringing. Where did you come from?
Oh, goodness. So I guess my upbringing is pretty vanilla, probably. Got brought up on a farm, actually, a country bumpkin. Lived on a farm for the first 10 years of my life. I'm surprised I made it through childhood, stuff we got up to, really awful stuff we got up to on the farm. We just lived on the farm. My parents weren't farmers as such.
Right.
Just lived on the land. And then, as is common in the west of Scotland, my mum and dad got divorced when I was 12, 13 and moved into the village in the south side. And it was a pretty vanilla childhood. Nothing of note, I would say.
Any I suppose defining moments in your childhood, do you think, that sort of perhaps set you on the road for where you are now?
I guess, like a lot of people that go through, their parents getting divorced, becoming self-sufficient a little bit, the degree of looking after yourself, becoming a bit more independent. Which I don't see it as a bad thing. You don't want to be
growing up a bit faster, maybe.
Yeah. I think that was probably quite an awakening, I would say, and the realization that adults don't always get it right. So that was maybe one of the defining moments. But pretty happy upbringing, I would say.
Good, and a happy soul now, obviously, too. But what got you interested in life sciences then? What was the trigger for that?
Oh, goodness. It was I don't know if I ever decided I want to be a scientist. It was, I went through loads of things when I was growing up. I wanted to be an architect for a little bit. I wanted to be an air stewardess for a little bit, which my mum just said I was never getting to do. I got put for my work experience in primary school. They put me in a library. And you know me well enough, Ewan, to know that that's probably not a career that I would have gone down. I don't know why they thought I would go to
librarian.
Yeah, they would just have shut me up for a few days. I don't know. But then the life sciences, I had a real mixed kind of interest. I enjoyed maths latterly, hated it at the beginning of my school career, but quite liked it towards the end of school and got quite good at it. Biology I always liked. But it's you don't know what you want to be when you're like 17, 18, right? You don't know, and you've got to make all these decisions that narrow your options, and it's a bit of a panic. So when I left school to go to uni, there was 30 of us all went to Glasgow Uni, and they admit you into a faculty rather than a specific degree programme. And at that point, I wanted to be a marine biologist because I was really interested in like sharks and stuff. So I thought, I'll do that. And so I just sort of went with the crowd a little bit. I still wasn't thinking about a career or a job. It was still what I quite enjoy. So thankfully, the Glasgow Uni, the way it's set up, you're admitted, like I say, to a faculty, and then you don't have to decide until third or fourth year, which is, I decided in the third year that marine biology wasn't necessarily about sharks. And it was about pHing lochs and the peeing rain on a Sunday morning. And so I changed to pharmacology, and that really ignited the spark of what I love, which is how things work and the human health and all the different things that pharmacology is applied to, really. So that it wasn't until later on that I kind of really thought, no, I do want to work in science. Quite a late realisation, I would say.
Oh, fair enough. And you then went on to do what? A PhD straight away, or did you do a master's?
I did my degree, and then again, at the end of my fourth year, there was 30 people in my class, and I realised all of us are all going for the same jobs. There wasn't much going on in Scotland, and I thought there's 30 people or 29 other people that I'm going to be up against, and I just thought I have to differentiate myself a little bit. So I went straight into a PhD program, and it wasn't because of this thirst for knowledge or, advancing my thinking. It was just, I can't compete with these guys for a job. Yeah, just do something a little bit different. So some might say that's a bit extreme, but the PhD, I wasn't an employee. I wasn't ready when I came out of university at the end of fourth year. I wasn't employable. I had no applied skills, Some may say I still don't. So I did my PhD, and that's really where you learn how to do science, right? How to do research, because it's independent, you're kind of self-taught, and you just have to kind of get on with it. And it teaches you other skills like, tenacity and, overcoming problems, which you have to do the entire time of your PhD. So that was great. I really enjoyed my PhD because it's quite applied research. So yeah, that was the rationale.
From there, then, how did you get interested in business and the opportunities it offered, as opposed to, continuing in academic or continuing in academia and getting a career going there?
Yeah, so I kind of went the usual route. After I finished my PhD, I went and I did a postdoc because that's what you did, right? So I realised wasn't thinking about business at that point. And again, there wasn't that much happening in Scotland. I got married a month after I finished my PhD. I wasn't ready to go abroad or anything or travel for work. So I did a postdoc and then realised that academic science wasn't for me. It just was... it just wasn't a good fit. There's nothing wrong with it. Academic science is brilliant, but I just realised it wasn't a good fit. And I wasn't looking for another role, but around that time, my husband got made redundant from his job, and we got to a bit of a crossroads. And I thought one of us needs a permanent job, and academic jobs aren't permanent. As it turns out, no job is permanent, but I got the opportunity to join Quintiles at that point, and it was a bit of a full circle because the head of pharmacology at Quintiles at the time had come and given a presentation when I was just finishing my fourth year at uni about contract research and the different careers. I thought, this sounds really, really interesting, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then when the job came up, I thought, that was that woman, that was that department. And I ended up working for her, and she's actually a very good friend of mine now as well. So it was a real light bulb moment, joining Quintiles, contract research, fast pace, customer aspect, the business aspect, along with the science. I just thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. So
great grounding then.
Oh yeah, I mean Quintiles, like any big company, the training was just phenomenal. You're trained within an inch of your life, and it's still stuff I use to this day. So that was a really tremendous training ground, and get exposed to different things, and it led on to so many things. Like that's from Quintiles, that's how I ended up going to Singapore and working for a spin-out company over there. And yeah, that really was the start of things.
What was the idea behind Fios, and when did it all kind of start?
Yeah, so Fios started 2008, and I didn't join till 2012, so there was 4 years pre-Sarah. And the original idea, if you think back to 2008, the big data revolution hadn't really started yet. Sequencing data and stuff weren't being used. Certainly not in an applied way anyway. So it was really forward thinking of the founders of Fios to realise that a standalone analysis company would be needed. But they did. And so Fios spun out in 2008 from Edinburgh Uni to be this platform agnostic, biology-focused data analysis company. So that was 2008. They got their first investment in 2011, and that was by the Archangels Group, Scottish Investment Bank and TriCap. And that was really when the commercialisation of what Fios does started. And I was the first recruit off the back of that investment. So I came in as commercial director in 2012. Was it 2012? Yeah, 2012. And then really just, the first 4 years were spent, honing the craft and trying to find a position of FIOS. But the commercialisation really started when I joined as commercial director, and just getting out and speaking to people. This is what we've got. Is this what you need? Rather than, if you build it, they will come. We've got this lovely thing, you will use it, which doesn't work. So that was really the start of the proper FIOS journey, I would say.
And what was I suppose, I was going to ask about your biggest challenge as being a CEO, but that sounds like quite a challenging time, I suppose forming a proper offering that customers were going to be interested in and so on. So, what was the big challenge there then?
I mean, the big challenge for me personally was I knew nothing about bioinformatics, and, it was one of those words, and I say this all the time, one of those things, your hairs in the back of your neck go up, you go, oh, don't need to know about this. And so that was, again, one of the reasons I joined FIOS, a little bit of a challenge, why not learn about something new? I've never taken the easy route. And I think that's always advice I'd give to people, to be brave, make the brave decisions, because fortune does favour the brave. So, going out and speaking to people about something I didn't know about was quite challenging. But in some ways it was good, because I related to our clients a lot more. Like, I'm a biologist, I've developed drugs, that's what they do. They don't know about bioinformatics either. So, they would tell me the problem that they had, and then I would speak to the guys back in the office and go, right, this is the problem. Can we fix it? And it actually worked out really, rather than me going out and selling bioinformatics, I was selling solutions, textbook features and benefits selling. But carving out the business was hard, because standalone analysis wasn't a thing back then. It was always coupled with the data generation. So, just carving out a kind of niche for ourselves was challenging. To say the least. And then you've got the growing pains of a business, right? The hand to mouth, oh goodness, are we going to make payroll? And, we're going to need more investment, and all those things as well. So it was, I look back fondly on those times. In some ways life was simpler, but in other ways it so wasn't. It really was.
Challenging, fun, sleepless nights and terror, and the occasional moment of punching the air with,
really high highs and really low lows, I think that's going to be the title of my book at the end of this journey, I think. But it's
It'll be the title of this video.
Peak too soon. It was challenging in the early days.
How did you get identified? This isn't on the script, by the way, but to become the CEO, what happened there?
Well, like I say, I was the commercial director, and there was only a small team. There was only, 4 of us, 3 or 4 of us at that point. And like
total?
Total. Yeah. Within FIOS.
4 folks, yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's like any small company, it's all hands to the deck and everybody does a little bit of everything. And I joke about this, but I'm half joking that my day job has not changed since the day I walked into FIOS. I just now have permission rather than asking for forgiveness. And it's true, my day job hasn't changed. So everybody just sort of mucked in and did a little bit of everything, although my focus was on the commercial side. But then we started getting to a point where we needed a CEO. And at that point, money was still tight. We were still looking after every penny. And when the board were doing the interviews, it was right, what is this person going to bring to the business? We're speaking to these people, they were coming in for really, really high salaries. I said, what are they going to add? Are they going to bring sales? Are they going to add expertise, technical expertise? But they were business people. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we needed somebody, again, who could just, roll their sleeves up and get on with it. And it was never on my agenda to be a CEO, not through lack of ambition. It was just, I don't know. I didn't, confer to the stereotype, it's a shame to say that, but I didn't. And so I was really sort of reluctant, and they asked me if I wanted to do it. I said no. And then everyone was going, oh, that's mental, you know, that you've been offered this. And eventually I was like, right, fine. You know, so, and I did deep down, I probably did want it. And I knew that I could do a good job. And I'll always be grateful to the investors and the board for giving me that opportunity to, you know, trusting me with this embryonic company that really had potential and just letting me go with it. So I'll always be thankful to the chairman at the time and the investors for doing that. And I'll also blame them to a certain extent as well.
Why not?
You know, why not? But yeah, it was an interesting.
What was it then in your mind or whatever that made you say no in the first instance? I mean, you know, was it self-doubt? Was it, you know, did you think, you know, imposter syndrome?
Yeah,
you know,
a little bit of that. Yeah, so there was a little bit of, you know, I can't do it, but I don't know whether it was like, what could I not do? Because I know I'm a very capable person, so I think fear of the unknown. There's a little back when I was younger, there was a mystique around CEOs. You know, they maybe weren't around very much, but they were also very busy and doing stuff, you know, magical stuff, and it just happened. And I was like, well, I don't know about any of that. So there was certainly a degree of imposter syndrome. You know, I was, what age was I? Early 30s, mum, you know, new baby. I wasn't early 30s, I was mid 30s, you know, fairly new baby, just still trying to find my feet in the world, you know, and just worried that I wasn't going to be able to give it my all. But yeah, there was a bit of that. There's still a degree of that to a certain extent. Still getting away with it.
Never leaves, does it? I think at the end of the day, there's always something.
Yeah, you don't want to become complacent. I think the minute you think, I've made it, then that's it. You know, that's when you haven't, and you need to go and do something else, because the business needs you to be thirsty and driving to further yourself and the company, you know. So I think it's important that you never ever get complacent.
You're established as a CEO. You're clearly kind of, you've developed a set of skills to allow you to do the job and do it well. But what was the key challenge at that point in time? And did it change much from the early days, or what did it look like?
I always say, you know, the challenges have been what our finance director calls the unknown unknowns. You know, that it's just the stuff you just cannot plan for. A global pandemic. For example, you may be familiar with it. So I guess just expect the unexpected. No, that's always been. I find it it's difficult to shock me now. Some of the things that have happened, you just go, oh Lord, you know, right? Okay, that's what's going to happen, is it? Yeah. So I just think, you know, if you think of how much something's going to cost, double it. If you think of how long something's going to take you, it's double that. So yeah, I guess the unexpected was always the challenge. And
I think I always had a view at those kind of relatively early stages, even, you know, further down the line. A lot of it is wading through mud. You know, you expect that things will happen, people will do things, that everybody's heading in the same direction. Doesn't happen on its own, does it?
A lot of firefighting, isn't it? Like a lot of whack-a-mole and you know, you have your plan. You think, right, we're beginning of the year, right, where this is the budget and this is what's going to happen. You know, it's finger in the air type stuff. And you know, we've been, a few years ago, we got asked for, you know, 3, 4, 5 year forecasts. It's like, you know, okay. And then it's best guess. And I think everybody realises that, but you've got to have a plan. You do have to have a plan. You have to be adaptable. You have to not be so rigid and that's what I think a lot of businesses struggled during the pandemic, that they weren't flexible enough. They couldn't pivot their business, to use something I read in a book once, to, you know, to make things adaptable. So yeah, you've got to be ready for the unknowns.
How did you commercialise the business? Anything to add to what you said in terms of, you know, was there something else that I suppose just allowed the sale to become, or the commercialisation of the business to become a thing properly, or?
It was just hard graft, you know, and there's no shortcuts to it. And I think, you know, we were really well supported by, you know, Scottish Enterprise. So in the early days where, you know, you don't have infinite budgets, they really helped us, you know, expand our dollars, you know, a little bit, and you know, gave us support to do more quicker.
Yeah.
So there was one year I think I did 16 trips to the US in a 12-month period, and that was how we grew. That was how we got our client base established there, was just being there. Because we're, a little, at that time, 10, 12 person company in Scotland. Nobody's ever heard of us, but you'll hear about me if I'm standing in front of you, in the Bay Area or San Diego. So that presenteeism, I think even post-COVID, we're talking online, but post-COVID, I still think there's no substitute for that. It's still how we get most of our sales at Fios. It's just by being out there and looking into the whites of people's eyes. So, there's no shortcuts. It's just a lot of hard work and a lot of air miles.
And in terms of establishing that, was that some of the training and development that you got in your early days, with like quintiles and so on, or, did you just kind of bite the bullet and go for it with these clients? Did you know them beforehand? Had there been relationships or whatever? Or was that all brand new as well?
No, it certainly wasn't from Quintiles. I was purely operational at Quintiles. Right. Okay. It was probably from my time at Biopta. So I ended up doing some sales at Biopta just through kind of staff reasons. We had the sales team, magic chair, all got pregnant at the same time. And me and the CEO just had to muck in, and I'd always sort of poo-pooed the idea of doing sales, even though, in a CRO, everyone's a salesperson. But in terms of signing this contract, that wasn't me, or so I thought. But, I really enjoy talking to people and solving problems. And actually, that's what sales is, and the contract aspect is fine and it has to be done, but it's all about telling someone you can solve their problem, convincing them that you can solve their problem. So, we started commercializing Fios. A lot of it was people I knew from before that I just wanted to use as a sounding board. They weren't ultimately going to be the clients for Fios, but it was, listen, this is what we've got. How does this sound to you? Do you know anyone that would find this useful? And, just from those green shoot discussions, things start to go. But I guess it's been a lot more intense commercializing something from nothing than it was sort of, when the market's already there. It's been
doing it from a kind of, I suppose, understood pathway or platform.
Yeah, it's totally changed. When I first went out to talk to people about Fios, it was selling the merits of generating the type of data that we analyse, because people weren't doing, I'm going to get technical on you, Ewan, bear with me. People weren't doing gene expression studies in their clinical trials, right? And so I was selling the merits of doing that, and then we do the analysis, by the way, but now people are just so fluent with these technologies that everyone's doing sequencing in their clinical trial. So how we sell has completely changed, and in a relatively short period of time. And that's a kind of maturation of the market. That's just the evolution of it. But I wonder what it'll look like in another 10 years' time. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I suppose, when you think of 2011, kind of another country now, isn't it? There's a lot happened since then.
Yeah. The big data, there's so much data being collected on every person at every minute in time. And it's opened up loads of good stuff, but there's a lot of bad stuff that comes with it as well, but I guess as long as there's companies like Fios there to help turn it into information, and that's what matters. Don't be a stamp collector of your data. Do something like that.
Interesting term, stamp collector of your data. Right,
that one.
Another title.
Say that ism.
How have investors been on the journey, and what advice would you give to others about the kind of relationship that you have with investors?
We've been really lucky. Obviously Archangels were involved when I joined Fios, so I didn't get them, if you know what I mean. And they've just been so supportive. And I think having that support, that patience, is really, you can't put a value on it. I'm glad that we had investors like that, and not maybe, VCs who are a little bit more aggressive and wanting a return and driving, because, you need to let things nurture a little bit. So, Archangels and TriCap, they've followed on. We've had about 4 or 5 investment rounds, I think. So they've been really patient, really supportive. It's a really nice community that they have of companies, and we all talk to each other and, help each other out with things that we can. And I think the best thing about the relationship, or the best advice, is just be open and honest. They were you, these high net worth individuals that are in these, consortium, they've been you. They know how hard it is, and they know that things happen unexpectedly. And it's just be honest, just be open and honest, and keep them on side. Is the
disclosure, just kind of
absolutely. Don't try and bamboozle with jargon and stuff. It's just tell it like it is, and they'll come with you, and they'll trust you more. So a lot of it's about trust, and they also put a lot of trust in me to give me the role. But hopefully I've sort of repaid that trust a little bit, just over the years, hopefully.
Yeah. What's I suppose been the biggest distractions along the way? What kind of caused you all sorts of issues that perhaps you weren't expecting, and
I guess.
And was there anything you would do differently to avoid those things?
Yeah.
Or how did you just deal with them? Are they unavoidable? And
I think they're probably unavoidable. What has surprised me, and it shouldn't have really, is the people aspect. Can't account for people, everyone everybody works to live. They don't live to work, and that's been not hard to manage, but it's been a learning curve for me about taking that into account a lot more. And even during the pandemic, and it was a lot of the people at FIOS are have got school-aged kids, and it's like all of a sudden we're all homeschooling, and we couldn't just go, well, you have to work. You just couldn't do that, and we didn't want to furlough people because we still had a lot of work to do. We were relatively unaffected by the pandemic, other than our working practices. So that people element has been challenging, but also the most rewarding. So seeing people who came into FIOS, early, and then have grown up, through the company, and they're in senior roles now, and that's great to see. And it's been really good to see people move on to bigger and better things as well. That's lovely to see, and it's great to see people doing really well. But that people element has surprised me, but probably also been the most rewarding aspect of it, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly most businesses that we've been involved with over the years, and FIOS being one of them, I think the people challenges are kind of interesting, because they're never the same at any point in the growth. It's always changing, and people's ideas of and I suppose what they're getting from an organisation may well change as the organisation itself changes. So they then end up being a kind of square peg in a round hole by nothing to do with how they work or whatever, but just because the company changes. And but I suppose the best they can do is give them skills to keep moving forward themselves. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I just to take it quite personally when people resigned, and you shouldn't. It's not. Sometimes it is personal. Most of the time it's not, and nobody stays in a job forever. So, you get a bit of a thicker skin, and, sometimes people do have to move on. They do. For all concerned, it is the right time. So it's just about keeping the ones that you don't want to move on.
Absolutely. Making sure you're on top of that. If you had the opportunity to go back and give yourself some advice way back, whenever, what would it be? I suppose when.
And when
would you give yourself advice? Yeah.
Do I think? So they have these sliding door moments, right? Don't you, in your life? And I think for me, the first proper sliding door moment was when I went to Singapore, and it kind of came about in a bizarre way. I was at Quintiles at the time. I was on a conference call with my line manager, her line manager, and a client in Singapore. And we were just talking about a study that we were going to do in Edinburgh. And then at the end of the call, the client said, "Oh, I hear you're opening up in Singapore," which was news to me. And my boss's boss went, "Oh yeah," he goes, "that it's on the cards, but it's not going to happen anytime soon." "All right, okay." End of conversation. So the phone went down. I went, "That's interesting." And they said, oh yeah, it's just something that's been spoken about just now. I was like, oh, I'd love to go and live there. 6 months later, you know, cat under each arm, sold my car, sold the house, and off we went, you know. When I thought naively I was going to do the job I was doing in Edinburgh, in Singapore, with lower tax and sun, you know, lots of sunshine. The first thing they had to do when I got there was design the labs. And I don't know anything about designing a lab, you know. And I was really horrendously naive to have moved all that way over there, having never been there, not knowing what I was going to. I did not ask the right questions. But you know what? It was the making of me. And I think if I had known what I was going into, I wouldn't have done it. So what would I go back and tell my former self? Oh, just enjoy it.
Don't ask too many questions.
Don't ask too many questions, and just make the brave decisions, because it does. And that doesn't mean they're the right decision. I've made some wrong decisions. Yeah. But just make the brave decision and don't regret it. You know, there could be paths that, okay, I won't go down that path again, but don't regret it, because you had to do it to know sometimes. So I wouldn't want to tell myself too much, actually.
Yeah, and I suppose it's always about just having the kind of the confidence in yourself that if it does go wrong, you can make it go right.
It.
You know,
absolutely.
You're not setting a path out, you know, to some sort of, you know, absolute doom.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
You can always flip and kind of go do something that, you know, you might never have expected yourself to be doing, but could be equally rewarding or whatever. What's the plan for you in the future of FIOS?
FIOS, I mean, it'd be nice to have a couple of years or a few years just of stability. No pandemics, no wars, just something, just a little period of calm, but that never ever happens. So I guess we're still growing the company, we're still adding headcount, we're still adding new clients. So just a period of sustained growth, maybe less drama. A bit less drama would be good. And then, just see what happens. I think Max and I have both been, and Martin have sort of been at this now. I'm 10 years and 1 week in the CEO of FIOS.
Congratulations.
And thank you, commiserations. And I think it's, you know, what is next? I think we are thinking, right, what is next? What is next for the company? Is it to be part of a larger organisation? Is it to, you know, go global? You know, we've got a global, I'm going to say fan base, client base, fans as well. And is it, you know, do we open an office internationally? And these things always come around this time, which is budget time for us. So our financial year starts 1st of May, and it's like, is this the year that we open an office somewhere else? Is this year that we get salespeople based in the field? It's all those discussions are going on. But just continued growth, continued success. We've built a really nice business. We've got a good reputation. We've got a fantastic team of people.
Yeah. How many people are in the business now?
40-something. 44, 45, although we had somebody start last week, somebody starting next week. So, mid-40s maybe.
47.
Something like that, So, just a nice period of stability and growth and happiness. It would be nice.
Sounds like a nice way forward. I wish you that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I very much appreciate that. And we look forward to, you know, the results coming in the future. In terms of where you go from here.
And my book, don't forget my book.
And your book, sorry, my apologies. Yep, absolutely. Very good.